Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Rickles for setting up the entire event here today. I think he did it by himself. Thank you, Mr. Rickles. Good morning and welcome to Boys Lab's annual Veterans Day ceremony. Before we begin the formal ceremony, I'd like to introduce our guests and any military personnel in attendance. If you are currently serving in the military, please stand. If you have prior service in the military, please stand. Thank you. I would also like to recognize two people today, if they would please stand. Mr. and Mrs. William T. Kerwin, class of 1957. I will explain their significance to the program in just a few minutes, and you'll understand. Veterans Day was established on November 11, 1919, to celebrate the conclusion of the hostilities in World War I, a year earlier. It was known back then as Armistice Day. Years later, it was renamed Veterans Day and now honors all who served. At BL, we honor all of our military personnel, past, present, and future. Currently, there are numerous BL alums who are serving around the world and here at home. Over the many years of our existence, 25 former BL students have died while in service. This morning, I'm going to explain how you, me, and we can preserve and promote their memory and service. Personally, I use the Boys Latin Center for Military History to accomplish this goal. The museum has thousands of artifacts. There are not just rusty relics or uniforms, etc. Almost every artifact has a story. And if you've ever heard me talking there about a case, you'll know that's true. I can spend an hour on one case talking about one particular alum or one veteran. And that's what the facility was created for. These are not just rusty relics, as I said, they really do tell meaningful stories. Now here are a few examples how an artifact can tell a story and almost bring a soldier back to life. Recently, Chris Meisel, class of 2004, and I installed a brand new exhibit. It will be open today for the first time for its official unveiling. The objects in this case are related to the Battle of Corregidor. The artifacts in this collection inspire us so much that would actually help me make this presentation today. That's what we're talking about. We acquired this collection from Mr. William Kerwin, 1957, and Mrs. Kerwin located and preserved these items for us. Over many years, they've realized the potential and importance of these objects to preserving the memory of our fallen heroes. Now, a little background to the battle. The island of Corregidor, with its garrison and artillery, protected the city of Manila. From April 28th to May 6, 1942, the island was bombed and attacked by the Japanese. Their force totaled 75,000. You can do the math in a minute. The Allied defenders of Americans and Filipinos numbered 13,000, with basically no Air Force cover at all. The Allies lost 800 killed, 1,200 wounded, and 11,000 were captured and were sent to either POW camps or forced labor camps. Obviously, every artifact in that picture, in that exhibit, is related to one of those 13,000. And when you see the exhibit, you'll understand it better than what this picture says. The first artifact that inspired me was this dog tag. So what? It's a dog tag. I've handled hundreds, if not thousands of them during my lifetime. But this one is from this battle. And we just know that every one of the members of that garrison were either killed or captured. Fortunately, this was the first one I picked up, and I could actually read it. And after about 2 months of research, I found out who it belonged to, and I can now tell you the story. This is Charles E. Cook, Jr. He was killed on Corregidor and is still listed as missing in action. After researching his story, I found out that he lived in New Bern, North Carolina. I found out who his mother was, where he went to high school, and after some help from a lot of people, I was able to travel to New Bern and return this to the family. It was a pretty emotional day. It's still emotional for me today. And that was one of the many artifacts in this collection that the Curlins saved for everybody. Next one, that's just a bunch of medals. I'll bet you if you go home today, somebody, one of your households is going to have some medals in a drawer, maybe in a case. You might want to ask some questions about who had those medals, who earned those things. About 2-3 years ago, a friend of mine I went to high school with, his family was cleaning out at their house, and they found these medals, and they gave me a name. Now, if you just look at them at face value, they're 3 medals, but I know what they are. The one on my right, your left, is the Purple Heart, which you received for either being wounded or being killed. The one in the middle is for the Mexican border expedition in 1916, and the one on my left, your right, is the World War I Victory Medal. And it's interesting, it has several clasps on it, which means this guy served in several campaigns during World War I. After speaking with the family and trying to find more out about this gentleman, I found out who he really was. He was Clarence A. Harris. He was a bugler before World War I when he served with the Kansas National Guard. When the war started, they were federalized, and he was with, I believe, the 35th Infantry Division that served over in Europe. During the conflict, he was gassed and burned by poison gas. Fortunately, he recovered and came home. Now, that's not the end of the story. I think this is one of the neatest things, and some of you might know the rest of this story. After the family gave me these medals, they said, "We have our grandfather's trumpet. Would you like it?" I said, "Well, I don't play the trumpet. I don't really know that much about it." And I went, ding, I know somebody who would like the trumpet. Anybody knows who might want that trumpet at BL? Somebody knows. Mr. Pisardi. I don't know if many of you know that, but know this fact that he actually plays in a recreated band, a World War II band. And they play swing music and music from the 40s. He now has that trumpet and plays it. So I think that's a real neat twist of this story. Instead of just disappearing, Mr. Harris's legacy still lives on. And I gave him his bio to put in the trumpet case. So anytime he plays it, he can explain who owned that trumpet. Now this doesn't seem like an interesting object. It's just a plastic toy soldier. To me, it's one of the most interesting things in the entire museum. I don't know if interesting is the right word, maybe emotional. This belonged to Nick Zielkowski. Nick Zielkowski, class of 2001, one of my favorite students. I have a lot of favorite students. But Nick was very special. Nick joined the Marine Corps and unfortunately was killed in combat in Fallujah in November of 2004. Nick used to play jokes on me, and I went along with him pretty well. Nick used to take these plastic toy soldiers when he was in my military history class, and he'd hide them all over the building. And he'd come into class, and he'd raise his hand and make this goofy smile on his face that he always had. And I'm like, "What do you want now, Nick?" And he goes, "Did you go to the library today?" "Yes, Nick." And he goes, "Did you look at the clock?" "Yes, Nick." And he goes, "Gotcha." He used to hide these figures to practice his sniping skills on me. So he turned out to be a Marine Corps sniper, and unfortunately that's how he was killed. About 3 years after his death, I found that plastic toy soldier that I'd never seen before. That now is in the case in the museum. Now this one seems kind of funny. I love this picture. This is my son, class of '04. He's holding a helmet, and in his helmet is his new son, Christian Meisel, Christian Frederick, named after me and also my father. And he's sitting in my father's World War II helmet that he wore on D-Day when he earned his Silver Star. Now, how is this going to tell a story? Maybe not so much to everybody out here, but I guarantee the little buckaroo here, when he starts to get a little older and sees this picture, he's going to want to know, what am I doing in a helmet? And if you're in our family, you know me, you'll understand that. But he's going to ask his father, who was this gentleman? Who was my great-grandfather? So that's pretty neat, and that legacy will be passed on forever to future generations in our family. So, next picture. And that's a picture of my dad.